Genki Genki, fellow sumo card collectors. I hope everybody's having a great weekend. Things are getting pretty interesting over in Japan as far as this March tournament. A lot of Rikishi actually have COVID, so it'd be interesting to see which ones actually still compete, who might be Kyujo, and really if we are going to have a tournament. I've heard rumors out there we might not, but I think at least most of the Rikishi will be nice and healthy by the time the tournament starts. So hopefully that's the case. But certainly getting excited for that. I do have Fantasy Sumo card game cards coming in the mail here this week, hopefully on Monday, and I'll get those out this following weekend. Pretty excited about that, and I'll get more information on our channel, the BBM Sumo Card Collectors group on Facebook. If you're interested in that, just chime in, take a look. We might have a slot or two still open for those interested. Okay, well today I wanted to give everybody an overview of sumo cards. Really the really the 20 sumo card types that are out there. I just recently released my 5th edition of the book, Sumo Menko and Card Checklist, which has all 20 of these described in there. This is a 16 series, they're really kind of a type, if you will, and I'll explain that in a little bit. But really there are 20 different kinds of Sumo Menko cards, and so I wanted to highlight those here today. And you can see all 20 different ones in front of me, and I'm going to walk through each one of those just in a short little segment on this video. So I hope everybody finds this nice and informative. Certainly was fun digging through everything and putting it all together, but exciting to be able to present to you all the different types of Sumo Menko cards that are out there. So and really they're in order of how I present them in my book. So not any particular order really, other than just kind of alphabetical by the Roman characters. So that's really how I'm going to present them today. And so hopefully that makes sense to everybody, and hope everybody enjoys the video. Without further ado, let's go ahead and step into the first one. First series of cards that we have are A series cards, or candy cards. Now these are cards that were issued in gum packs, candy packs, or anything that was just associated with candy and distribution. So here we have the A602 set. This is the 1960 Kabaya candy. This is Sekiwake Annenyama. And so you can see here, issued by Kabaya, which was a candy manufacturer or confectioner in Japan. Popular in the, I believe, probably from 40s, maybe even a little bit early, all the way up to the 60s, and into early 70s. So you can see here, what you'd do for this particular set, you would redeem them. You've got numbers on the front. You can see 100 here, but you would collect so many of them, and if you've got the top prize, right, I can't quite read what that says, but you would redeem them for that prize. So these are actually really hard to find, any A series cards, just because a lot of them were deemed or destroyed all along the way of collecting. So yeah, again, a very difficult set to find, and certainly a very difficult series to find. So if you find any of these, certainly pick them up. The next series I have are B series cards, or these are really bookmark cards. I've only been able to catalog a few of them. Very difficult. Again, I don't think very popular, so there was just a few made, at least as far as I could tell. This here is the B562, or the 1956 Shiori Series 2 set. There was a 2 series in 1956, this being the second one. There was photographs of each of the Rikishi, Sekitori on the bookmarks, and then the third bookmark actually had a Dohyo Iri of the 4 Yokozuna at the time. But you can see here you got Matsunobori, Wakanohana, Asashio, Tokitsuyama. So I cataloged these again in the book as the B series. Again, I think I've only seen about 4 or 5 of them, so if you can find any, certainly pick those up as well. The next series is the BB series. These are black and white bromide Menko cards. So this is where you start blending styles. Was in the 1950s, where you started blending bromide with Menkos to get these bromide Menko cards. They used the halftone printing process on the front, so again, it wasn't the silver bromide process, as I'll explain here in just a minute. But then it blended that with the Menko style. You can see Gu Choki Pa, or rock, scissors, paper. You got the fighting number on the bottom, and just stylistically a Menko. So these are black and white bromide Menko, more popular in the 1950s. This one happens to be the BB574, or 1957 Maruichi Sagari 7 black and white set. This is Yokozuna Kagami Sato here, card number 2514000. And so this is a very difficult set to find, but you can see about this little bit smaller than the size of a regular card, but printed on thin paper stock. You can see bend here, but we're used to play Menko, and so that's why we've categorized him as the bromide, black and white bromide Menko on cards. Okay, and similarly we have the color bromide Menko on cards. Just as you saw with the black and white bromide Menko on cards, this is the BC series. This is a representative of this series. This is the BC 591-1 set. So the 1959 Maruya Kimarite 6 set type 1s. So these are the ones with the gray paper stock on the back and green ink. There are several different versions of this and types. There's some with the brown ink on the back and some with a tan paper stock. So I've been able to type 3 different variations of this set. This is a Maegashira Kashiwado, future Yokozuna in the 1960s. And so again, you start to blend the styles of bromide onto Menko, and you get these bromide Menko and cards series. And you can see the Gu Choki Pa, you've got the Kimarite here in the middle, and then you've got a fighting number at the bottom. Very popular. This is the most common series of Menko out there, so pretty easy to find all sorts of sets from this series. Okay, next we have the BP series of cards. These are the silver bromide photograph cards, and these were actually photographs printed on cardstock material, or photographic cardstock, and then they were not meant to play any games, but they were really meant to collect, put in scrapbooks, put in photo albums, and really collect. Very popular in the 1940s, extremely popular. In fact, they were the dominant form of cards in the 1940s. And these were printed using the silver bromide photograph property, where you would expose silver bromide on photographic paper. You get your image, and then you would freeze that from any further really exposure, and then you would wash away that bromide, leaving really the silver on the paper. And you can see here, it reflects, and you can see the black areas are really actually just dark silver exposed on the paper. And most of these are blank backed, but this is a very common representative set here with the BP 422 or 1942 4-column full name bromide set. You can see the 4 columns of statistics, full name. You've got the full Shikona here. And then this happens to be, as everybody probably recognizes, Yokozuna Futabayama. And so very popular. You're going to see hundreds and hundreds of these in the 1940s, dozens and dozens of different sets. And in fact, there's so many of them, I haven't even been able to catalog them all. Very difficult to catalog, as you can tell, with having a blank back. So, but really a fun set to collect, and you get some great images of Rikishi from the 1940s. Let's move over to a very recognizable set. These are the C series Menko, Circle series Menko. Not very many of them I've been able to catalog. Really only about 6 different sets from the C series. This particular set happens to be from the C481 set, or the 1948 large disc. This is Yokozuna Terukuni. This set also had military figures. It had baseball players and some other popular figures of the day. Most of the C series are blank backed. In fact, I think all of them that I've been able to catalog so far have been blank backed. Very recognizable. Obviously, you can tell that the circular shape. Very difficult to find, so don't hesitate to buy these when they do pop up, because you're not going to see them very often. Another series is the game series. These came in all sorts of shapes and sizes, but any kind of card that was used to play a game, not besides Menko, was cataloged as a G series. Now this is the G593 set, or the 1959 Doyusha Shiki 5 Series 1 set. These actually came in panels of 2. They were actually meant to cut in half. And this was an awase game, or a matching game, so you'd put these upside down. You could see all the backs are the same, so you wouldn't know what the front was. You'd put these upside down, and you would just really try to match them. You'd try to find a Tochi-nishiki, as in this case, with another Tochi-nishiki, or an Annenyama, in this case, with another Annenyama. You could also play, you could see the playing card pips here. You could play them, use them as regular cards, or you could use them as Menko. Here at the bottom, we've got the fighting numbers. So just a variety of different ways to play. But I've categorized all game series cards as G series. And again, these are pretty common to find, this particular set, and a lot of G series are still a ton out there that I haven't been able to see or catalog. So it's certainly fun to hunt for those. This is a really unique series. This is the H series, or as I call the Brick series. Now these are meant to be slammers, so when you played the game of Menko, you would actually use these as your slammer Menko. Very much like Pog, you would have a slammer Pog that you would slam down. It's meant to be many times heavier than a regular Menko. You can see printed on very thick cardboard stock. These came in all sorts of different thicknesses. Now this happens to be a kind of a thin one. But H series come in again a variety of thicknesses. Now this is a representative set of an H series. It says H552, or the 1955 Ranga 89 Type 1. So this is the thick paper stock of this set. There's actually a thicker one that's about 2 to 3 times as thick. So again, this is the Type 1. So H552-1, or the Type 1. See Yokozuna Kagami Sato here. These are Menko, meant to play Menko. You can see Guchoki Pai, you've got the Shikona, you've got the fighting number, you've got height and weight, and you've got fighting words, and then you've got the rank Yokozuna for this particular card. So again, you'll know when you have an H series, again, it'll be very thick, and I'll pull it up here kind of next to, as you saw earlier, a little bit bigger, most of them, than a regular size BC or BB series Menko. But yeah, these are kind of difficult to find. Certainly not many of them are in good shape just because they were used to slam. So there you go, H series Menko. Next we have Karuta cards, or K series. Now the Karuta is a very specific game in Japan, so that's why I categorize these as their own category, K series, not part of the G series. But Karuta was really, if you don't know, is a matching game where you put all of your picture cards face up. You've got a reader card that's going to read a clue on another card, and as they read the clue, you've got to look at all the pictures, and you slap your hand on the picture that represents the reader card and what they're reading at the time. This happens to be the Japanese hiragana for O. We have Maegashira Waka Haguro here on this one, and this is from the K581 or 1958 Star Karuta set. Baseball players, a lot of stars of the era in 1958 are represented in this set. I can't remember how many specific sumo wrestlers are on here. Most of them are all blank backed. And on occasion you'll get one that has a different kind of picture on the back as a variation. But so these are Karuta. So again, what you're looking for is the Japanese characters somewhere on the card, and you'll know you likely have a Karuta set here. So again, K series. Probably the most popular, besides the BC series Menko, are these M series Menko. Smaller, you can see here. Let me pull up a BC series. I'll just use that for comparison. They're all about this size, printed on fairly thick, most of them are printed on fairly thick cardboard stock, and they're actually just they're literally Menko, or square Menko is what the translation is. So I've categorized them as the M series here, and many of you probably recognize this type. So this is the M531 set, or 1953 Kagome Sonenchu 7. This happens to be the Type 2 version of this set. It's got the gray paper stock. Some of them have tan paper stock, but this one has the gray paper stock. It's got the dull front. Kind of see here, it doesn't reflect. There are some versions that have got a shiny front on this particular set, and it is a pretty thick paper stock. Some of them have thin. There's like 3 or 4 different types from this M531 set. This happens to be Wakanohana, very famous in the 1950s and early 60s. He was a Komusubi ranked at this time. You can see the Kagome mark here. You got a fighting number. It says television here on the right. You've got height and weight on the left, and then you've got the Guchoki Par and then the rank. The Sanenchu series you'll see in my book if you have it. Sanenchu just refers to 3 columns, so many different sets of the 1950s M series have 3 columns, so I've just categorized them all as the Sanenchu. So again, very popular. Many of you will encounter these at auction, and so there's just dozens and dozens of different M series sets. A unique card. These are prize cards, prize sheet cards. They were only issued on prize sheets, and so as you win a prize from a regular Menko, you would go to the prize sheet and you get to choose a free prize card. So these were meant, again, not issued in packs or Taba packs or boxes. They were issued strictly on a prize sheet. This happens to be the P571 set, or the 1957 Marukami prize cards. So you got Maegashira Naruyama. So again, these are categorized as P series cards, and you'll see that in the upper left hand corner. What you're looking for these, again, printed on pretty thin paper, but what you're looking for is these somewhere where the glue stuck to the card and then to the prize sheet. So that'll pretty much tell you if you've got a prize card here. So many of these are still easy to find, and again, because they were meant to be collected, really not meant to be used in a game or at all. Very similar to the BP series, where you meant to collect them and put them in albums. Very similar to what you would do with these prize cards, because they were a little bit bigger than a regular Menko. So there you go. These are P series prize cards. Very I guess common and should be recognizable PC series cards or postcard series. Very popular in the 20s and 30s were postcards to issue pictures of your favorite wrestler. Should be very recognizable. Many of them will say postcard, and they'll be recognized as a postcard. A place for a stamp you can see here. This one obviously unused. Many of them are black and white, but you do on occasion get color ones. Those are pretty cool. This happens to be the PC361 set, or 1936 Seikaido postcard set. This is a Juryo Shachino Sato, and these are pretty common, actually kind of expensive. You know, you're going to pay $5 to $10 per card, per postcard at auction, but they are actually fairly common. If you go on any auction site, you're going to see dozens of different kinds of postcards. I haven't dove into these a lot in my book. You know, on occasion I'll pick them up if they're a good price, but just because they are pretty spendy, they are still pretty popular. I haven't been able to categorize or catalog a lot of them, but here you go, PC series cards. Okay, how's everybody doing out there? Hopefully you're sticking with me. Just a few more to go through, but the next one I wanted to highlight is R series. Everybody loves the R series, and you'll see why here in just a second. You can see these are the die cut in the shape of the sumo wrestler, and very unique. Everybody loves R series or Rikishi series Menko. This one happens to be from 1939. It's the R392 set, or the 1939 Rikishi 4-5 set. Type 1. This one happens to have purple ink on the back. I think there's one that has a blue ink on the back. So this is the R392 2-1 set. This happens to be Maegashira Rogoku. But again, these were extremely popular in the 30s and 40s and into the 50s. And again, not difficult to find. Certainly some of the older ones are more difficult to find, but yeah, just the die cut really makes these extremely unique. You can see here on the back, you've got typical Menko. You've got your Shikona in the middle. This one doesn't have the Guchoki paw mark, but you've got the fighting number. You've got fighting, you got the rank, you've got height, weight, you've got fighting words on the left there. So just really cool R series. Never pass these up if you can find them, especially from the 1930s. So there you go, R series. Okay, next up is S series. I've actually got two S series cards here. These are Stadium series or Kokugikan series cards. So they came in two different forms. In the 1920s, they came in these accordion books forms. You can see Rikishi, looks like Popular or Tokyo Picture Rikishi cards. So you can see here, they came in these accordion forms, picture of the cards. I don't know if they were meant to really cut out, but they call them cards. So you can see them in this accordion style. This happens to be the S251 set, or the 1925 East Kokugikan set. And these accordion ones, they would actually typically be representative of one side of the Banzuke or not. This one happens to be in the 1925 East side of the Banzuke. Not extremely uncommon. You know, every couple months you'll see one or two of them pop up. It just depends. Certainly pretty cool to be on the lookout for. But so this is the S series, again 1920s S series, and then in the 1930s and early 40s they went to these boxed cards that had blank backs. This hopefully is recognizable by many. This is a Futabayama. I think this is actually his Deika or debut card. So the very first Futabayama card ever made. This is when he was ranked as a Mayagashira. So pretty cool to be able to see this card and be able to catalog this. This is the S331 or 1933 Kokugikan black and white set. And again, all of the Stadium or Kokugikan series cards are cataloged as S series. Here we go, we've got Z series cards or magazine cards. So these are cards that were issued in magazines. So a lot of them are hand cut. They were meant to be cut out by kids that would buy the magazines. This one happens to be the Z573 set or 1957 Zashi Type 2 brown ink. There's one with the blue ink on the front. This brown ink's a little more difficult to find, so this is the Z573 one set. This happens to be Sekiwake Asashio, who later on went on to be a Yokozuna. So I've again categorized all of the magazine cards that came in magazines as Z series. Now there are a few exceptions, but for the most part, if it came in a magazine in the 1950s or 60s, I categorized it as a Z series. The next one, I kind of got them out of order here. Let me pull up. So these are TC series or telephone cards. So in the 1980s, late 80s, early 90s, telephone card collecting was huge. Just a I would argue probably $1 billion industry collecting these cards. So people would actually buy these, not even use them. So the telephone card companies were just making money hand over fist. There were clubs out there. There's super rare editions, and certainly sumo wrestling was caught up in that as well. So this set actually happens to be the CT901 or the 1990 NTT pastel set. You can see it's got Ozeki Konishiki. He should be pretty familiar with most everybody out there. You can look on the back. In about 1990, 1991, they went from these individual serial numbered ones here, you can see, to actually just a generic barcode, and then makes it much more difficult to categorize them or catalog them after 1991 or 1992. But CT series, very cool. And the JR rail passes and orange cards, they're going to be categorized under the CT series as well. I haven't done that yet, but I've got a few sets I'm going to categorize. Probably just maybe rename it the T series or telephone or train series, actually, just to make it generic. So, but anyway, there you go, the CT series. Now we really don't have any identifiers as far as series. We just lumped them together, these last four, into just kind of genres. So we've got the 1970s and 1980s cards, and so there was just a good handful of cards made in the 1970s and 80s and just lumped together in this not even a series, again, just kind of a genre. So this happens to be a 1975 Osato mini card, Yokozuna Wajima. Many of you might recognize this set. Takamiyama was in that as well from 1975. So a pretty popular set. Pretty easy and pretty common to find. But you can see here this particular set had a blue back, and then it would have statistics of the wrestler in that set. So any card that was printed in the 1970s and 1980s outside of telephone cards and trump cards were categorized in this 1970s, 1980s genre. Similarly, we've got what I'm going to call foreign cards. So these are cards that were made outside of Japan depicting sumo wrestlers. And so I was finally able to categorize foreign cards this year, or this series. This set actually happens to be from 1986. It's a 1986 Portuguese calendar card set. You got Sekiwake Konishiki here at this time. You can see the back here. It's got the calendar from 1986. And calendar cards in the 1980s were huge. These were really really unlicensed cards. They made them from movies to personalities to sports to just all sorts of different subjects. Many of them probably unlicensed, and as probably is the case here. You can see this looks like it was probably taken from a screen grab. But it categorized this as the 1986 Portuguese calendar card set, and there's probably about 6 to 10, maybe even a couple dozen all the way, different kind of foreign cards that were made depicting sumo wrestlers. So there you go, foreign cards, foreign sumo wrestling cards. These last two, likely recognizable by many. Trump sets were extremely popular from 1973, and even to today they're still being made. And so these are made annually by the Kokugikan and issued for sale to Kokugikan, and they picture every wrestler, or all the popular wrestlers of the time when the card set was produced. This happens to be from 1989, the 1989-2 Trump set. This is Chiyo Fuji. King of Diamonds was typically the #1 or the highest ranking rikishi at the time in this set. So these are common. They all have the common unique backs as you would expect from playing card sets or trump sets. And so categorize these as trump sets. And then finally, many of you, or probably everybody here, is familiar with the BBM sumo cards made by Baseball Magazine. This happens to be from 2018. Maegashira Takakeisha, who is now ranked as an Ozeki, but these are very popular. Started in 1997, and they're being made several different sets a year, and so those obviously warrant their own categories. Any cards made by BBM issued in packs is categorized as a BBM set. So there you go, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this overview was really helpful, just to give you at least an idea of what kind of different sumo menko and cards are out there. Certainly reach out if you've got any questions. I'll be happy to answer them. And wish everybody happy hunting out there, and enjoy the next sumo tournament. Sayonara, everyone.